Welcome everybody to the California K-12 Tableau user group. Super excited to have everybody here. My name is Cassidy Macias. I'm the Director of Education for West Coast. Been at Tableau about 4 years and been part of a couple different user groups throughout the country. And I believe this is our first one for K-12 in California. And it's so exciting that you guys have all joined us, that are ready to hear what other people are doing and share resources. Just wanted to kind of point out a couple of reasons why we're here. Why do a user group? What's the benefit to you? User groups are generally run by our users and just supported by Tableau. But in this case, because you guys have not had one before, we wanted to start it, kick it off, and really get the ground running, with our hope that in the future you guys take this, own it, make it your own, and then obviously we can be here to support and come in and talk about whatever you guys want. But a user group is a way to build a community with you guys, and because you're spread all across the state and we're in this virtual world, we decided perfect timing to start a virtual user group. So during, today you'll hear about different K-12 customers and what they're doing. You'll be able to share education best practices, especially as it relates to California and the policies there. And just having a regional specific K-12 community just gives you guys more power and, join more brains and forces together. Did want to introduce your California K-12 Tableau team. As I said, my name's Cassidy Macias. I'm over there on the left. And again, I'm the director of our West Coast education team. You also have Grant and Sarah, Grant Sampson, Sarah Swanbeck. They are your account executives for our K-12 customers in California. And then Matthew Platt, he is our technical counterpart. Former teacher, Matthew. I'm also a former teacher, and we've got lots of K-12 expertise on our team, and so we're super excited to just see what you guys have got going on and how we can help y'all. Moving on to some logistics for the next 90 minutes or 85 minutes or so. Before I move on to our agenda, I do want to point out, if you have questions, please put those in the chat. Sarah will be actively looking at those, and we'll make sure as the presenters are talking that she's kind of speaking up and making sure your questions are heard. But for today, what we're going to do, I'm doing the welcome right now, and then we'll have our first customer presenter from Alliance Schools, and they will be talking about report design and maintenance strategy. From there, Matthew Platt will cover what's new in Tableau. He's going to show you guys what has changed in the last couple of versions of Tableau instead of just the last one. We do change our versions 4 times a year, so there's a lot to be shown there and how it's specific relevant to K-12. And then we'll have Oakland Unified present on dashboard design based on user feedback. And then Sarah will cover just some resources, where you guys can find things that was covered today and later on, and just some next steps as well. And then for those of you that want to hang out with us even longer and win some prizes, we're going to do a Kahoot. I'm sure all of you guys know about Kahoot. It's very prevalent in the K-12 world, but we'll be handing out a raffle prize to the winner of Kahoot. And in addition, we also will be selecting 2 random attendees that are posting in the chat to win swag at the end of the meeting. So hang out. We'll announce that at the very end. We have until, let's see, I'm Central Time, so 4:30 your time is when we're looking to end, and Kahoot will be about the last 15-20 minutes. So with that, again, welcome. We're super excited. We are recording, so if you guys want to share this out with colleagues or people that weren't able to make it, we'll send the recording out after so that you guys have access as well. All
Awesome.
right.
Thanks so much, Cassidy. I'm Sarah Swanbeck. I'll kind of be moderating the chat, leading us through some transitions. Super excited y'all are here. So with that awesome introduction, gonna hand it over to Alliance Schools. We have Diana and Ali Cruz presenting. So y'all can go ahead and share your screen and go off mute. And we're really excited to hear about how y'all are using Tableau.
Cool. Thank you, Sarah. I'm gonna start sharing now. Cool. Can everyone see that? Okay.
Yes, awesome.
Hi, everyone. Well, thank you. Well, thanks for joining today. We're really excited to be here. So we're going to be sharing some information on the importance of user feedback in Tableau report creation at Alliance College Ready Public Schools. So let me just kick it off. So what is Alliance, you may ask? We're a charter management organization in LA, and we serve about 13,000 scholars and 14,000 alumni from our 18 high schools and 10 middle academies. My name is Ali, and I'm an associate on our data strategy team, and I've been at Alliance for almost 2 years now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Diana, and I am a manager on the data strategy team, and I have been at Alliance for about 5 years.
So our objective for today's presentation is to share our team's process on how we're utilizing user feedback to inform our Tableau report design and strategy, and how we interact those with our users and our creators.
So over the past few years, our team has been focused on creating a one-stop data shop for home office and school leaders that serves stakeholders with various data literacy levels. And while working on this goal, we have come across a few challenges, some of which we are showcasing today. So we've distinguished the challenges into two categories, creator-facing challenges and then user-facing challenges. For creator-facing challenges, those are challenges that impact the report builders at the home office. So data analysis is decentralized at the home office, which means that various teams manage and analyze data. And associated with this decentralization, there was no clear ownership of reporting and system maintenance. There were instances where our targeted users either did not have access to login or did not have access to the right reports. In addition, multiple teams created and shared Tableau reports with schools and home office. And so this previously made it difficult for us to standardize practices and reports across teams. And many of our reports had varied design styles in terms of filter placement, formatting, and how data was shown, which led to users not accessing the reports and in general being confused about what the reports were showing. And then lastly, there was no clear process for receiving and utilizing user feedback to inform report design. And so the reports were not necessarily most useful for our users. And then on the other side, we also came across some user-facing challenges, or those that were based on our audience's interactions with the Tableau reports. So through in-person interviews, which we will discuss further, we were able to pinpoint two significant issues. One, users did not know that what data was available on Tableau or our site, and there were various levels of data literacy among our users, which means that there's a variance among what data format and structure is most useful and how comfortable they are interacting with our reports.
So while we were in the process of identifying these user challenges, we were also migrating from Schoolzilla, which was a site that we were using to host our Tableau reports previously, to Tableau Online. However, this was an opportunity for us to start fresh and build out a foundation for standardizing our usage of Tableau. And then since we had already started this whole process, we were able to complete the migration relatively quickly. And also, it was an opportunity for us to rebrand our data site as the Alliance Analytics Portal, which is now what we call our reporting website.
So for our report creator challenges, we came up with a few solutions. So when we identified that that we needed to create like a session for all of our report builders to come together and to clarify roles for maintaining our Tableau online. And so we created Tableau T, which is a monthly meeting with all the report builders where we discuss Tableau features, the cycle of building a report, and ways in which we can standardize reports across teams. So we implemented skill sharing within these sessions because most of our report builders had limited experience with Tableau before joining Alliance. So to standardize our practices or our report building, we introduced the use of a report planning tool and a report template. And so the report planning tool is a Google Sheet that helps document all of the steps needed to create and update a report. So it allows us to explain our process for creating each report so that in case someone is not able to update the report, someone else can take over it, and thus making the process easier. So within the planning tool, we expect to see a README, which kind of explains where the data source is coming from, and it can either include a file path or detailed instructions on how to update the data source. Then there's also a tab with the steps that are needed to document all of the steps needed to complete from updating the data source to communication of the report. This is especially helpful with reports that are updated less frequently so that you don't have to remember all of the steps or be worried about missing one, or a report that could potentially be updated by more than one report builder. Then we also include a list of checks that should be completed before the report is released. And so since here we have a few iterations of the report that is published, we have one tab for each time that we're releasing it and completing these checks. So before we release, we'll make sure that all of them have either been resolved or that there was no action required at any given point. And so by documenting all of these steps, we're able to ensure that the report is easy to maintain and can be shared across teams or report builders. And then we also introduced a report template, which is a Tableau report that we use as a guide for all of our reports. And so all of our reports should include an information view. Let me see. I think.
Oh, sorry. Y'all can't see it. 1 second.
But we created a report template to kind of standardize how all of our reports look, and that's just so that our users become comfortable with our setup, and that way it doesn't feel like they're seeing something totally different from report to report, especially considering that we have so many report builders on our at Alliance home office. So within the template, we have included everything that is necessary for a report to really be an Alliance branded report. And so all reports have to have an information view, and this is provides information on when the report was last updated, the purpose of the report, details on either how the metrics are calculated or any relevant words that the user should know before actually going into the data. And then we have also included a formatting of the filters. So we have standardized filters so that they're always at the top. And that's so that our users get used to the idea that filters will always be on top rather than having to search through the actual report. And we found that people react better to that. And then lastly, we have structured our reports so that the data flows from the big picture to a detailed view or information. So for example, if a report would show network-wide scholar level. And school-wide, we would always start with the network-wide to the left and then move on to the school-wide and then lastly student level. And that just kind of helps the flow. And they get used to always knowing that scholar level or student level will be the rightmost view. And so in order to address our roles and structures challenge, we assigned roles and expectations for maintaining our reporting system. So we have assigned tasks for auditing our user access to Tableau online and to reports and folders. And so we consistently communicate with each other about who should have access to what, and we audit that to ensure that it's accurate. And then we have also created a structure for publishing reports and maintaining projects within Tableau online.
Cool. So while we've been addressing the report builder challenges, we also decided we needed to research and pinpoint which challenges are at the forefront for our users. So what we did was we set up in-person interviews with both school and home office staff, and we got a mix of high school and middle school to get that different perspectives. What we did was we used a note catcher to collate information where each person was asked a standard list of questions, and the goal of this was to gain knowledge on what was each user's general data usage like, what was currently working in our reports or not working, and then also what users would like to see in future reports. And it was also nice to just be in person and create a relationship with the people who are using our reports in Tableau. So I'll show an example of our note catcher. These are the questions that we used and the different people, and we were able to interview 13 out of our 28 schools and 17 home office users, and we collated all this information into a memo, which we now use for our report strategy creation. And some 3 takeaways that we got from these interviews was that users in our school at the home office didn't know what data was available, as we said before, on the AAP, and this affected the initial flow of our users into our reports. We also found that most school leaders use scholar level data daily, as in for conversations with scholars or parents, and then more school level data less frequently, like weekly or monthly, to look at trends. And also most users we spoke to pointed out that it was a challenge to have varying levels of data literacy, both in the schools and in our home office. So this wasn't just a school-based challenge that we had. So after collating these interviews, we are now in the process of developing a strategy that will be shared with all of our report creators as we go into like the new school year, and so that we can create better, more user-centered reports. We're also addressing the challenge of getting users to use Tableau Online by training users at the home office and being available for school-based trainings. We're also developing a data website where we will have a list of all reports available just to keep that stream of communication open between our users, as well as looking into using more features of Tableau Online, such as subscribe and alerts, to be more personalized about when we're updating. Lastly, we just wanted to go over this process that we've been keeping in mind and reiterating. So throughout all of our research, we found that the feedback and report creation strategy is very iterative. And so this graph kind of shows our thought process as we're going through report creation. So the first thing we do is identify questions, whether these are frequently asked by our users or questions that our team would like to answer. From there, we're able to organize, see if we have the data that we need to create the report, and then build the report from that, which includes design as well as data cleaning if needed. We test the report amongst ourselves just to ensure everything is working properly, is it answering the questions that we set out to answer. Then we show the report to a group of users to get feedback, make changes from there, and then publish on our data portal, communicate that the report has been published through newsletters or email, and then from there the process is a cycle as we get more feedback, update the report, and get new data.
Awesome.
So in summary, this past year, we have focused on completing work that will set the foundation for reaching our goal of making Tableau our one-stop shop for Alliance, home office, and school leader needs. So thank you for listening. And I think we can pause for questions.
Thanks, y'all. And yeah, the chat has been popping. So we have several questions for y'all, and appreciate you going through that. One of the biggest questions we got was kind of curious on how you all were able to train up your report creators, just given their variety of skills and experience. So could y'all speak to how you were able to kind of implement that process?
Sure. So we have about like 10 report builders at the home office, and for the most part, there were 2 that were usually updating the report, myself and another colleague at the Alliance. And at first, it was kind of, we would reach out to each one individually and kind of introduce them to Tableau, but it started becoming more of our work to do that rather than actually building reports or any of our other work. So then we decided to introduce the Tableau T, and I actually spent some time kind of creating like a lesson plan where we're kind of, what are the required things that people need to know to build a report. And so we've kind of slowly been going through that process as a team, and that way those that already know some of these steps can support others, while those that don't know are able to learn. So it's kind of been like a classroom setting, I would say. And we've used Tableau T to kind of introduce that.
Awesome. I love the Tableau T idea. Great, great name. And then we were getting several questions around the planning tool that y'all showed. Several folks were asking if you guys would be willing to kind of share the template that you use. So just wanted to kind of jump into that and see kind of how you guys created that, and if you'd be willing to share with everyone on the call.
I think we have like a pretty standard template that we can share. And so we can definitely share that with you, and then share it with the rest of everyone on here. I think it kind of started with when our reports was being frequently updated, and it became this process where we only had one person who knew how to update it, but we couldn't have that person be there every day, like without having a vacation. So we kind of just said, okay, what steps would someone need to take to complete this report or to update it? And we took into account kind of the different levels of knowledge that we have on the team. So we went in as simple as like, okay, this is how you upload the data. This is how you like do this. And so we kind of just created like this one guide that helped us explain the steps going on behind and like how to troubleshoot. We knew that this was like a multi-step process, so that's why we created that steps sheet. That way it would be easy to kind of keep track of like, okay, I've done this, now what's next? And I think it was just to ensure that it didn't become like this project that we had to work on the entire day to ensure that it was done, and we could do it in steps if needed to, or like to split the different parts of it. Does that answer the question?
I think so. Yeah. Thank you. And then we do have a couple more quick questions. A few questions came in just around kind of y'all's underlying database system. You know, what are y'all connecting to? Do you have a data warehouse? Just kind of curious about your kind of current technology stack.
So we use Schoolzilla for our data warehousing currently. We've been using them for a few years now. So a lot of like, so we technically get a lot of our PowerSchool, which is our SIS system data in through there, and then create some of our own tables using the Schoolzilla data warehouse.
Awesome, thanks. Few more, they're coming in. Y'all have a lot of great content here.
Hey, and Sarah, let me just quickly say, because there was a question in the Q&A, to everybody asking questions, if you want everybody to see your question, just change the little caret that says to from all panelists to all panelists and attendees, so that you can see, everyone then can see what everyone else is asking. Just might help there.
Thanks, Cassidy. We just had one come in around kind of prioritization when you're getting started with Tableau. So the question was kind of, how large is your team? Person who asked, there's just 2 of them supporting 8 schools. So they're really focusing on prioritization. How did you guys decide kind of which areas to prioritize first with report strategy and content?
So I think our interviews provided a lot of that support for us, or a lot of answers in terms of like what we wanted to focus on. I think we created like this list of like what we thought the schools needed on their end, or what the home office needed on their end. Then we kind of created this table where it was like, how feasible is it? Or like, do we have the data? Is the data in the correct format? Like, how much trouble would it take to actually format the data if necessary? Then we also took, once we like reached out and interviewed people, we took it into account like whether we had even heard any of them speak to these reports. And then that's how kind of we prioritize. So if there was something that we heard frequently coming in from schools, even though maybe it was a little more time consuming, then that's where we were more interested in completing, because that would ensure that our users were also going into our Tableau online site.
Yeah, to go off of that, I think that like speaking to the users, we had a lot of our own intuition about like what we thought schools would want and how they would want it. But I think that actually getting that feedback in person and talking to them about why that feedback is most useful for them really helped us to prioritize, like, oh, for example, like they really like to download data. So, okay, let's prioritize having like a downloadable view in Tableau for our reports. So like definitely getting that user feedback was helpful for us to prioritize.
Awesome. Thanks, Ali. And then a couple of questions came in around how the 2 of y'all were able to build up your Tableau knowledge. Did you guys take a formal training class? Did you rely on e-learning? How are y'all able to kind of get to this point with your Tableau skills?
I can jump in. So I came to Alliance not really knowing Tableau at all. I think I watched one intro video, and definitely being able to collaborate. Like for me, what's most helpful is to have a project that I need to complete, and having to know which skills I need to get that to that project, and also being able to collaborate with Deanna, since she had more knowledge than me, and our other colleague as well. So I think that having that like cross-functional team collaboration helped a lot for me personally.
When I joined the data strategy team, it was actually the first time I had ever interacted with Tableau. But I really enjoyed like creating dashboards on Google Sheets. So I kind of had a knack for that. Then it wasn't until I kind of started breaking other people's reports apart, like on my desktop, that I kind of learned how things worked. And from there, I did take a Tableau like intro course. And since then, I've also just really been on like searching online, like this is what I'm trying to do. And usually there's a lot of like people who have had the same issues and have found ways to resolve it. So I think Google is probably, or a search engine is probably the best.
Awesome, thanks. And just as a little plug to everyone on the call, Tableau is actually currently offering our e-learning for free for 90 days. So if you have some specific questions or want to brush up on some skills, definitely check that out, and we'll send that over in our follow-up. And just a couple more questions for y'all. Ali, I know I've said that a few times, but they keep coming in. How do you guys decide at what point do you make changes to your reports and kind of update to version 2.0? You know, you're getting a lot of feedback from folks. So at what point are you guys re-updating or revamping a report to send out?
So I think we've started actually creating like guidelines around like version control and like version updates. And I think we've kind of said like sometimes there's like minor changes where it's kind of critical for or things that are critical for the report, where like maybe a filter's not working or like something kind of just went haywire, and those are kind of immediate changes. But if we see like someone just saying like, oh, I would rather you also include like this field in the report or like do this, we'll keep track of it in the planning tool. And then before we do any additional updates, usually because of data updates, we'll look at that aspect and kind of say like, oh, is this feasible now? Or like, is this even possible? And kind of go through all of that feedback and see what we want to prioritize, or what things are definitely going to happen or what things are definitely not going to happen. And so I think our planning tool is really where we document all of the information regarding feedback, even things we've noticed on our own or like future things we would like to incorporate into them.
Yeah, I think definitely the documenting helps so that we can update less frequently, which is better than updating a lot, and like that just gets kind of messy. So the report planning tool helps a lot.
Love that. Thanks. And then one final question, and then we're going to transition it over to Matthew for a quick presentation on what's new in Tableau. And just wanted to address everyone. We had some questions about, additional meetings and topics. We're going to kind of address that at the end of the call. So just wanted to let you know we weren't ignoring those questions. But the last question for Alliance is regarding y'all's user interviews. We had a few questions around that. So how did that idea come about? How are they organized? Who compiles the responses? A lot of people want to kind of dig into that process.
Yeah. So I think, so when you working at, it's my first job in education. And I think that as I've been working, I found that it's really important to have like those personal relationships with people, because that's where you get like the best information and people know that they can like trust you and come to you. So I think that's why we chose to do the interviews in person rather than over email or collecting information in a survey. Also, people are very tired of surveys these days, so we didn't want to go down that route as well. So that's why we chose to do in person. Sorry, what were the other questions, Sarah?
You covered it. Just kind of wanted to dig into your in-person interviews. Who manages it? What's that process look like? But I think you covered it pretty well.
Okay, yeah, cool. And then the note catcher also as well was really helpful, just to, since I didn't do all the interviews, we split them amongst our team. So 2 people at a time would go talk with a principal and an assistant principal usually, and then they would just document their notes in that. And from there was where we collated, did like some post-it situation and put all this stuff together. So
hey, and just a quick note to everybody. First of all, love how chatty everybody is. This is great, because I'll tell you, with in-person user groups, you don't really ask a bunch of questions until the end, but virtual experience is very different. There's obviously a lot of questions that we still couldn't get to, but for the sake of time, we have to move on. But the benefit of a tug is that you guys all will hopefully get to know each other and can reach out to each other, and ask those questions directly to each other instead of through us. So if everyone, Sarah will kind of cover that at the end of like what this will look like going forward, but we'll definitely connect everybody with the panelists, but we would encourage you guys to connect with each other as well.
Thanks, Cassidy. Well, thank you so much, Ali and Deanna from Alliance. Really appreciate you guys taking the time. Virtual round of applause. And with that, we're going to hand it over to Matthew Platt for a quick presentation on some new Tableau features that will hopefully get you guys excited.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen here once again. And hey, yeah, like Cassidy and Sarah said, my name is Matthew Platt. I'm Grant and Sarah's solutions engineer. So basically, any technical questions kind of have to go through me. I am a former K-12 teacher, middle school and high school, Spanish and ELL. So I definitely understand what you guys are going through. So I picked out some of the best features that are not only new but most valuable to you guys and that you could use in your in your workflow. And we've come out with so many new features from 2019 up until today that I'm not really going to be able to go that in depth into all of them, but I think these that we've included, they will be valuable. So I'm going to touch on things that for each specific user type that'll be available and useful for them. So getting started, I just wanted to go over a quick agenda. These are some of the main, kind of overviews that we're going to look at, everywhere from, what would that creator do in desktop, maybe in Prep Builder as well, all the way through, that whoever's managing the server, and then two of our new add-ons. So just to get started with data and visual analytics. One of these great features that came out in a couple versions ago is explain data, and this is where Tableau is actually using AI to give you better descriptions of your insights. It's actually using Bayesian statistics to compare the mark that you select to all the other marks in your data set, so that it's going to give you insights that you wouldn't necessarily see immediately. You can see here we have some grades, a grade range. It recommended maybe it's study time that's affecting this, or maybe some of these other options that are included inside the data set. Next, we have buffer calculations. So this is some of our, a geospatial feature that is really exciting. And the way that this could be useful with, within school districts, are looking at specific overlap of where your school is located, maybe how far your reach is, where your specific students living, things like that, transportation. So this is a pretty new feature in terms of calculations. For our latest feature in 2020.2, we've really improved how customers are bringing in data, and more specifically, connecting that data with other data sets. Previously, we've had to make joins, inner joins, left joins. Now we can actually use relationships to make connections between data sets that have some, that we're wanting to connect. This helps us with efficiency in our dashboards, because whenever we're dragging and dropping, it's only querying that specific data that's useful to that specific query, as opposed to that entire data set. So it really helps in terms of efficiency. One of our most sought after features that came out in 2019.2 is dynamic parameters. So this feature, it's most often used with dates. So for example, if you have a parameter in a workbook, this parameter is going to go ahead and automatically update whenever you have it published up to Tableau Online or Tableau Server. You no longer have to go back into your Tableau desktop, change your parameter, and republish. So this will happen automatically. Moving on to what's happening on the web and mobile. So we definitely want everyone to have those, Explorer and Viewer licenses, so that they, they have the ability to actually interact with our Tableau visits. But oftentimes we do need the ability to just export these dashboards in, in an image, a PDF, as well as a PowerPoint for specific presentations. So all three of those are currently available as of right now. Our natural language processor called Ask Data is available in Tableau Online and Tableau Server. You can ask in English language any question that is included in your data set, and Tableau will create a visualization with the answer. So for example, it really lowers the bar to data analytics and people being able to ask and answer their own questions with Tableau. Very similar to Tableau Desktop or web edit. Whenever you ask a question, it's going to create a sheet with that visualization, and then you can change aggregation and visualization type from there. In order to be on top of our data and have always be in communication with what's happening to our data, we have data-driven alerts. whenever you have a numerical axis that you're wanting to follow and specifically keep a focus on, you're able to set a threshold for that numerical axis, and you'll be alerted whenever the data has been, that threshold has been met. So for example, this number of students here, whenever this threshold meets 770 above or equal to, I'm going to receive an alert in my email with this visualization, and I can click and go straight to it. More on the IT and governance side, this has to do with more of those server admins, site admins. So one of our extensibility improvements is webhooks. This allows us to integrate Tableau with other applications that we may use throughout our daily workflow. For example, if you're wanting to connect a specific dashboard update or one of those data-driven alerts to, for example, your school information system or another application like Slack, you can do that with webhooks. Now a little bit about Tableau Prep Builder. Some new connectors for Tableau Prep. This list is ever evolving, but some of those cloud connections are now available with Box, Dropbox, OneDrive, and Google Drive. These are some of the most popular connectors that we see with our school districts, as well as a Salesforce connector with Prep Builder. This was a really sought after feature as well. That's been a long time coming. So with with the acquisition of Tableau by Salesforce, things are evolving a little bit more quickly. So lastly, I kind of want to touch on our two add-ons. One is called data management and the other is server management. With data management, it comes in two parts. Our first part is for those Prep Builder users whenever they're wanting to automate their workflow and operationalize the cleaning and refreshing of their data. So what Prep Conductor allows you to do is take your prep flows from Prep Builder and publish them just like you would publish a visualization from desktop. You can publish a prep flow to your server, and you can actually run those flows either manually from the server, or you can set them on a specific cadence, very close or very similarly to how you would set an extract refresh. The next thing that's available with data management is Tableau Catalog. This allows us to set a specific it's our cataloging tool that allows us to set a specific description for the fields in our data. It allows us to get a really deeper view and discover what's really happening upstream and downstream of everything in our data. So you could see here in our lineage, you could see everything from the databases that it's connected to, all the way to what flows have been created, what data sources from those flows, all the way down to the actual owner of this data. So you can contact them immediately. You don't need to search for the owner for these data sets. All of it is inside the data management user interface in Tableau Server or Tableau Online. And lastly, our server management add-on. The value of server management is we have a few different elements of it, but the two biggest pieces are our resource monitoring tool and our content migration tool. So resource monitoring, it's similar to the site status that your admins will see, but it's going to give them further insight and deeper ability to make changes to their server in order to gain more efficiency and to allow it to work a little bit better for those end users. For those larger school districts that are working, with those large Tableau footprints, content migration is pretty key. You can actually make a template of specific workbooks or data sources and disperse it amongst sites, amongst server instances, and it really allows you to operationalize the migration and creation of content. Another two small features are the ability to host your repository on AWS, so you no longer have to host that either inside your Tableau server. You can put that in the cloud, as well as being able to optimize the roles that each backgrounder node plays. For example, extract refreshes, subscriptions, and data-driven alerts. we kind of already touched on content migration tool, but I just wanted to say thank you guys. I know that was really quick, but I kind of wanted to breeze through and show you kind of what some of the most valuable elements of our latest updates are. So,
Matthew, thanks so much, and go take a breath and have a drink. That was excellent. Really enjoyed that. Just wanted to make a quick note to everyone. I know it was a lot of content to go through, and we don't want to make this too much Tableau focused, because obviously we all want to hear the case studies, the use cases. And if you do have further questions about that, either contact me, contact Sarah, and we can go into further detail on these new features, as well as any others that you might have missed over the next couple, the past few releases. So our next segment, we're going to kick it over to Oakland Unified, and we have with us Susan Radke and Juan Du. OUSD has been a longtime Tableau customer. Susan, Juan, how long have you been with Tableau? I think it's what, 5 or 6 years more?
I'm going to defer to Joanne on that.
I believe that we got Tableau in 2015, so 5 years.
5 years, okay. So you've done so many great things with Tableau, and you also have posted a lot out to Tableau Public. So I know that other school districts have taken a look and seen what you've done out there, because you've shared that on Tableau Public. You've got a great use case today to share with everyone on dashboard design based upon user feedback, which I think is going to be enlightening to a lot of our viewers and listeners today. So I will pass it over to you guys both. Take it away, and look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Juan Du. I'm from Oakland Unified School District. And before I start, just some basic facts about our district. We have about 36,000 TK through 12 students enrolled in 83 schools. 70% of our students qualify for free reduced lunch. A third of our student population is English language learners. Half of our students speak non-English language at home. And in terms of our student composition, about 44% of our students are Latinos, 24 are African Americans, 12% white students, 12% Asian students, and 9% of students of other ethnicities. So every year we generate a document which we call FAST. So there's a link in there. If you click on that, it will bring you to the most updated 2019-20 fast facts we generate. So this is a document that we have been generated for the past, I believe, 6 to 7 years, that provides some basic information about our school district in terms of students, staff, budget, student services provided. And this is a public document. Anyone can access it online through our public data portal. Go back. Oops. Screen, what then? Okay, so our team. So Susan and I work for the Department of Research Assessment Data, and we call it RAD, and we are under the academics division. We have 12 staff members that are responsible for different data areas. Some of us specialize in EL data, some of us specialize in attendance data or discipline data or high school data. And we have a team website that will have a lot of information about the data points we provide data reporting and data analysis on. So on the left of the screen, this is how our report looked like before 2013. Well, let me not exactly. I would say before 2015. And the right on the right is how our data reports look right now. So I didn't know that we could spend a little time on the history of how we develop our projects. So I didn't generate any of the slides for that, but just by looking at the questions in the checkbox, I realized that a lot of you are actually interested in how we develop our project from the very beginning. So I probably will spend a little bit more time to give you a brief history of our journey. We actually started to explore the possibility of online dashboard for data reporting back in 2013. We did try some peer studies with 2 vendors, but for different reasons, they didn't go very well. So in the summer of 2013, we also had an intern who joined us in the summer, and we actually worked with the intern closely to interview about 40 users. About 20 of them are from central office, and about 20 of them are from schools. And the questions we raised to them are, what are the data points, data pain points you face every day? And what are the most urgent data needs you have? And in your daily data work, what are some of the most frequently data challenges you see? And then that in turn help us to synthesize responses and interview notes from all our interviewees. And based on the response from our users, we start to brainstorm how we are going to design our data dashboards and how we are going to grant permission to our users, how we are going to do our data access. So pretty much everything is driven by feedback from our users. We also put out an RFP back then to select a vendor for a data warehouse and for a BI tool. We did select someone, however, in the middle of the process, something unexpected happened, so we couldn't continue the project. So the data warehouse project was gone, and as a team, we brainstormed on how we want to move forward, and our decision was to purchase Tableau server. And so Tableau server is basically an online platform that will allow you to publish your dashboards, and once you publish the dashboards, you can send the link to your users, and your users, if they have the right access, they will be able to see your visual and the student level data in there. I believe we purchased Tableau server in I think at the beginning of 2015. And there were about like 3 to 4 months, our whole team was concentrating on studying Tableau. So we were basically learning Tableau all together. And based on users, we did ask users, what are some of the most important data points you want us to report on? So our users give us 4, which are attendance, out-school suspension, scholastic reading inventory, which is our district-wide reading assessment. What is the 4th one? Oh, and enrollment. So these are the 4 most important priority data points given by our users. So I believe there were 8 of us back then. So we pair up and we took one project with us for every team, and we start to learn Tableau and to build our first dashboards together. And in the summer of 2015, we were able to launch our data portals, both for internal staff users and also for public users. So I'm going to switch to our website. So our team website is OUSDdata.org. So this is our one-stop shop for everything related to our data. So you can find our staff members. In here, you can see announcements for our new products. You can submit your data requests or request for data consultation under the request tab. And under resources, we have frequently asked questions. We generate new newsletters, and we generate PDF guides, and we have some video tutorials. The most important tab is under data. So this is where we centralize all our data reporting and our data dashboards. Here you see two portals. The community members portal, if you click in it, it's for the public. So all the dashboards located here are available to anyone who is on internet, basically. And then if I go back, we have the data portal for OUSD employees. So that's our staff portal. And we have two portals, one for teachers that which is fairly new. And then we have a school and a central office portal that we started developing about 5 years ago. Currently, we have about 100 plus dashboards sitting here. Under assessment, attendance discipline, English language learner, and enrollment, etc. So this is the central home for all our reports. And if for any staff members, they can just click on these, and they will be able to see the dashboards in here. Okay. So one thing I want to focus specifically for today is how we actually set up our data access based on user feedback. When we were interviewing our users, 3 themes were arising very quickly from our conversations. So number 1, our users wanted to be able to go to student list directly from the aggregate results. So let me pull out my demo here. So this is a demo dashboard. So oftentimes our users would tell us that, well, it's great that you see our aggregate results. However, I would really want to know who are students you're talking about. So for instance, if I'm a school, and I know that there are 23.8% students or 131 students who have no score, meaning that these students have not taken assessment yet. And as a principal or as an instructional lead, I want to know who are these students. So could you please let us get a student list underlying this particular result so that we can share with our teachers. So that's the most urgent need, almost voiced by every single school staff we interviewed. And the second one, which is very interesting, is in our old model, let's say staff in school A can only see the results of school A. They cannot see the aggregate results of school B or school C or school D. And similarly, school B cannot see school A's results. Interestingly, in our conversations, principals want to share results. They want to see each other's results. They are interested in other schools' results. And when we ask about why, they give us cases like, so for instance, if I get the aggregate results for SBAC for my African American students, it will be great if we can see the African American results for other schools. And I know that some of the schools are very similar to mine in terms of student demographics. So I want to talk to the principals whose African American students are doing really well so that I can learn from their best practice to help us improve. However, without the data, I don't know who to talk to. And so once we hear about that, we add in one question about, do you mind if your school's aggregate results being seen by other school staff or principals? Everyone said, we don't mind. We are okay with sharing. So based on that, we know we got our second important user need is they want to share aggregate results. And then the third one is touching upon the legal requirement in terms of protecting student confidentiality. So our colleagues from other teams told us that, well, it's great if you develop your dashboard and people can drill down. And suppose if you have a, here are all the student groups, you can drill down. However, there are some student groups we consider they are sensitive student information that we should not allow users to easily get access to. So these are free reduced lunch status, homeless status, and foster youth status. So based on that, our team come up with the solution with all our dashboard sitting on internal portal is accessible for any OUSD staff. So as long as they have OUSD emails and a password, they can log on and they can see aggregate results presented in our dashboard. What we protect is the access to drill down to student level data. So in here, you can see there's a little line says that click here to see the underlying data for these students, and they are not available for free reduced lunch, foster, and it's for authorized users only. So this is how we protect the student level data. Every year we collect information from sites about site staff who have site-wide access. So we grant them special access to be able to drill down to student level data. And in addition to that, we create a filter in our dashboard with special condition. So the use of that filter is, so for instance, if I select free reduced lunch, and I can see the aggregate results. However, if I click on this, I won't be able to see anything. So this is to protect the sensitive information that we should not or we cannot share with our users, not even with our principals and the teachers for their own students. So some other important user feedback we receive is users basically tell us that it's very difficult for them to see longitudinal trend from our data. Typically in our data reports, the data in our old data reports, we provide data for 2-year comparison. However, many times principals want to see data trends for multiple years. So now it's a standard business rule in our team that for every dashboard, whenever there is longitudinal data available, we provide it. Yeah, and we also standardize what are the student subgroups we are going to provide in every single dashboard. So every dashboard we have data disaggregation by ethnicity, gender, fluency, foster, free reduced lunch, gender, home language, homeless, status, newcomer, and the SPED ad status. Let's see. We also have a dashboard business rules. So when we were developing dashboard all together as a team, we quickly realized that every one of us was facing pretty much the same issues all the time. Which color do we use? When we rank the order, do we rank from the highest category to the lowest category, or from the lowest to the highest? Which font should we use, and what footnote note we should put there? Should we put our team email there for users to access to, or should we just put our own emails in there? So we generate this dashboard business rule that gives details on how we store data on our server, and which access does each data analyst has for data underlying different on different servers, and we have rules for our internal dashboards to tell our developers what are some of the must-to-have visuals and features, and to tell them how we want to formulate the tooltips, and you know, how do we order the student groups in our drop down, and for our drop down, is it going to be a single drop down or multiple drop down? So everything is included in this business rule document. And similarly, we have one for our public dashboards. So because we know that our students' data is very sensitive, so we impose very strict rules on the underlying data for our public dashboards. So number one, there's absolutely no student identifier in the data underlying our public dashboards. There's no drill down offered in our public dashboards, and we do not allow people to download the data. And if for any summary results, the student group is less than 11, we suppress the results. So for every developer who is generating a public dashboard, they have to check every single rule before they would publish. And I will also show you our production server. So we realize that as time goes by, we will have a lot of dashboards, and we want to make sure that our dashboards are organized in a clean way. So the way we organize our folders on our Tableau server is we have an internal facing dashboard folder, and we have a public facing dashboard folder. So our team rule is only finished products. So only products that are available to go live will be put into these two folders. Everything else will be put into these project folders. So these are the places where you store your Tableau workbook that is still being developed, and you want to share with users to get the feedback, or you want to share with your colleagues to get their input. It's only when you have incorporated all the feedback into your dashboard and you're ready to launch, you move your dashboard into the internal facing dashboard folder. And the Tableau server is very flexible in terms of moving Tableau workbooks around. So if you move Tableau workbooks from one folder to another folder, the link will stay the same. I want to spend a little bit time talk about our underlying data. So as I just said, we don't have a data warehouse. So every data analyst is responsible not just for creating a data dashboard in Tableau, but is also responsible for pulling data from different data sources, including student information system, assessment platform, or some of our operational data platforms, and to massage the data in SQL Server and then feed it into Tableau. So in a way, we have a little data mart that every developer is contributing to. So we are very used to the model of someone giving us an ad hoc project and say that, oh, we only have a Google spreadsheet, or we have multiple Google spreadsheets that are formulated in different ways, or we have 10 Google spreadsheets, but here are some of the information we want to see in one dashboard. So we are very flexible in handling these requests. And during this COVID-19 crisis, this actually turns out to be very helpful for our users. We have generated dashboards that will summarize data for the availability of device and the internet hotspot, and that will also allow people to drill down to student level data to see which student is still not having access to a computer or have internet, And we have also generated other dashboards to support quick response for COVID-19. So Susan Radke is our mapping specialist on the team, and I will transfer it to her to introduce one of the food location response dashboard she generated in Tableau.
Thank you, Joanne. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to stop you from sharing, Joanne. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, Susan, you're good. We
Okay,
have a
thank you.
couple of minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna, and now for something completely different. I'm gonna try and get through this quickly. So I'm opening up with a map that was generated months ago for a completely different purpose. It's a map of the of census tracts, the number of students within each census tract that are eligible for free and reduced lunch. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because
Susan,
hey,
we're
Susan.
just seeing we're seeing your notes. I think you need to switch to the other screen.
okay, so let me stop share and start again here. So let me do this one, I guess.
We're seeing your browser.
Yeah, I just move this. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the map that I was showing you earlier was a map that was generated just to identify where our free and reduced lunch students live. And when the initial COVID response was to shut down our schools, the district operations team came to us and asked, said that they were going to open up 12 sites to distribute lunches, grab and go meals to students throughout the district. And they decided to locate those sites based on that previous map that I just showed you, because they did not have any interactive map to identify locations of clusters for free and reduced lunch students. So these were the original 12 sites, but then they asked if we could show them these 12 sites and the distance that students live from each one of those sites. So I used ArcGIS. If anybody's familiar with that, there's an algorithm routine called location allocation, which essentially what it does is it takes the location of each student and maps their location and the distance to one of those, their closest of those 12 sites. And it does it on the basis of the Oakland Street Network. So Matt had showed us earlier what the buffer routine looks like in Tableau, that you can draw basically buffer circles around points on a map. Let me just reload this. Well, that is using Euclidean distance, which means as the crow flies, so you're gonna have a nice round circle. But when you're using a location allocation algorithm that uses a street network, you're gonna get jagged buffers around sites because it's following the distance that students have to follow along a street network. So I ran that for a ½ mile distance and a ¾ mile distance around each of the original 12 sites for each one of our students in the district. And what it essentially looks like, these are what the buffers look like. And this background map was generated in Mapbox, taking the shape files from ArcGIS, loaded into Mapbox as a background map. So I'm using this, instead of the Tableau standard background map, I'm using this Mapbox map that has a shape file from ArcGIS loaded into it, just as a visualization so we can see what those buffers look like underneath. And then each one of these dots on the map represents a residential location, and it's color coded by the school or the food distribution site that each student is closest to. So once these 12, this was April 2nd when this first application was developed. And then what the operations team could do is they could say, okay, so how many of our students are beyond that half-a-mile buffer, and a half-a-mile buffer was used as a boundary for how difficult it is to carry grocery bags a round trip of a mile, or I guess to walk a mile, a round trip of a mile, and then carry grocery bags back from a food distribution site. Also note that these food distribution sites have been adopted by the Alameda County Food Bank as well. So it's not just our grab and go meals, it's additional food and produce and other supplies as well, like pet foods and diapers and hygiene products and so on. So these have become hubs around Oakland for the distribution of food and other services and products during this shutdown. And you can see it's fairly equally distributed around the city. But if you look at the numbers of the 25,000 free and reduced lunch students that we have in our district, which is about 70%, students that live a half a mile beyond these 12 sites, 18,000 of them do. That's a fair number. I mean, that's something like 73% of our students live more than a half a mile from these 12 sites. And if you go out 3/4 of a mile, and you can see they start to hug the buffer. If you go out 3/4 of a mile, we still have 10,466, and we're still missing 42,000 students that are beyond that 3/4 of a mile buffer that have to travel further and further distances to get to these sites. So if you fast forward 6 weeks later, the operations team was given the green light to add 12 more sites to our landscape for food and other product distribution centers. So we mapped out, we did the same location allocation analytics, but this time we're mapping students to 24 sites rather than 12. And this is what the buffers look like. I think this has to refresh first. Yeah, now I can do it. So there are twice as many food distribution sites. And you can see it covers more and more of the city. And the use of this tool enabled the operations team to identify clusters. So again, I'm going to pull this out to a half a mile or so. And then I included the selection tool. So let's see if we can zoom in. There's still plenty of students that are beyond that distance. So if we want to grab a cluster, let's say this cluster here, we use this lasso tool. We want to know how many of these students there are. 324, and if we want to look at a selected list of who those students are, we get a detailed list. It says restricted here because I published this anonymized data set for this presentation, but if you're in the selected specific user group, that's our operations team, you'll get all the student detail here that will enable you to identify who those students are and how to contact them. You can also scroll over each student point on the map, and a tooltip will show you as well. And again, all of that information is populated on the internal dashboard for the operations team to identify. So using this, the more updated 24 site map, we can see that if we put in the half a mile, I'll put in the 0.75, and we can see using 0.75, we capture, based on the new distribution of 24 sites, we're only missing 4,000 students, which means that we've pretty much captured 85% of our students live within 3/4 of a mile of our current food distribution sites. There's still clusters. So if we want to identify how many are in this cluster, let's say, we again get that detailed data. There's 230 students and families that live in that cluster. I also read an article today that came up on the on one of our Google lists that the district is now sending out this food truck to set up pop-up sites around the city, and I expect that they'll be doing that in these locations that are beyond the 3/4 mile reach of the current 24 sites.
Awesome, Susan. Thank you for drilling into that. That's some pretty cool stuff and really relevant to what's going on. I'm really impressed and excited that we got to see this today. We did have just a couple of questions come through that I wanted to address to both of y'all. The first one came in around kind of tracking usage data on y'all's Tableau server. So given that you guys have so many dashboards, how are you understanding what's popular, what's not working, and how are you guys iterating through that process?
So as I just said, our team has this point person system, meaning that everyone is specializing in some specific data field. So it's up to the data analysts themselves to track the usage stats for the dashboard they generate for the users. And if they see the user stats low, then it's up to them to talk to the users to find out why. Whether there's something they should revise, or is it because there's some important feature missing in the dashboard. And something we are actually interested in is to track how which are our frequently, or which are some our data champions. We can reach out to them and to find out about their best practices. So that's what we have been focusing on recently. But in terms of tracking individual dashboard usage, it's up to the individual data analysts.
Awesome, thank you. We also had one more question come in around what types of licenses y'all have with Tableau. So would you mind just sharing quickly kind of how you guys are using Tableau and what you guys currently own?
So we purchased the server about 5 years ago. If I remember that we purchased a Tableau server license that is offering unlimited number of user licenses. So we, but we didn't have. So I think I don't know all the technical details because it's my colleagues in tech services that was recommended solution based on our needs. Basically, we tell Tableau how many staff members we have, because mainly the dashboard are going to be accessed by staff members. And we tell them that maybe what is the maximum number of people that will access our dashboards at the same time. So Tableau, I think, recommended a solution to us. I don't think we get the most powerful server. We probably get the second tier, less powerful server that will guarantee that if there are less than 100 people logging onto the dashboard at the same time, the dashboard should function pretty well. So that's all I know about, our.
Yeah, exactly, Joanne. You're on. You have an 8-core license, so
okay.
you're allowed to equip a machine up to 8 cores, and that does allow for unlimited access of up to an Explorer or a web interactor. So the creators and the desktops, that's not included, but everyone else who is going to be able to see and understand, explore their data, ask questions of it, receive subscriptions, receive alerts, there's an unlimited access to all of those folks.
Awesome. For the sake of time, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much to Oakland for presenting, super informative, and really appreciative of everyone asking questions and just everything y'all were able to share. So another virtual round of applause. Thank you, Susan and Joanne. And then just to wrap up the user group for today, thank you again for everyone taking the time to join. I'm really excited that we could have our first event with y'all. So just a couple of next steps and resources to wrap everything up. After this call, we'll be sending out just some additional resources, information, and also a survey. So we'd love, we love data, so we'd love to get some insight into some thoughts and feedback that y'all have for future events. And then as Cassidy mentioned at the beginning of the call, these user groups are typically led by customers. We want customers to share how they're using Tableau, provide best practices, and really create this data community. So we're looking for a few folks who would like to kind of join the leadership team and help organizing these events in the future. So please reach out if you're interested in either joining the leadership team or presenting in the future, but we're hoping to have these meetings regularly scheduled where you all can present and share ideas. And then lastly, just a couple of things on some upcoming events that we're having. We're doing actually a follow-up to this event. We're gonna have a new feature interactive webinar that Matthew will be hosting. So we'll send out the details on that. You know, it's kind of come and go. If you have questions, want to learn more about explain data, see a demo, we're planning on it being highly interactive with a small group of folks. So we'll send over that information. And then also we're going to be having a K-12 webinar specifically on kind of adapting to this distance learning environment during the challenging times that we're all in with COVID. So that webinar is going to be on June 24th, and we'll send some information on that as well. So that wraps up the user group in terms of content-wise. Again, appreciate y'all joining, and thank you so much to Alliance in Oakland for sharing a little bit of what y'all are doing.
But wait, Sarah, we're not going anywhere.
I was gonna say, but wait, there's more. For those that want to stick around, we've prepared a fun little quick game and a raffle. So would love to get y'all some Tableau swag. So gonna pass it over to Grant and we're gonna play a fun game of Kahoot. It should only take a few minutes and hope y'all can stay.
Hey, thanks, Sarah. So if you're not familiar with Kahoot, it is a fun game. It's a trivia game. I'm sure many of you are using it. We've been using it during virtual happy hours here at Tableau. So as Sarah mentioned, we are going to start that now, and there's going to be a nice opportunity for you to win some swag. So let me just share my screen out. Bear with me one sec here.
And feel free to use the chat while we're playing Kahoot. Hopefully it'll be a fun time. And we also have a couple of raffle winners from using the chat as well.
So in order to join, just take out your phone or your mobile device. I hope you can all hear the music. And you're going to go to kahoot.it. I'll highlight that up here. It's KAHOOT.it. We've already got a couple of folks who have joined. When you get there, you'll just enter in this number. And this is our Kahoot game today. I'll read it so it makes it a little bit easier. 772-4370.
All right, Grant, we have a little over 30 people still dialed in, so maybe give everybody a little bit of time to.
Yeah, we'll just give a few more minutes to log in. So once again, it's kahoot.it, KAHOOT.it. And once you're there, you'll just enter in that game pin, which again is 772-4370. And if you don't see your name, it will appear once you've refreshed again, if it's gone away. All right. Well, I think everyone has probably joined who wants a chance to win a fabulous Tableau prize. So let's begin. These are a mix of questions. We've got some Tableau trivia, some California trivia. Was the first sport that was broadcast on television in the US? Was it football? Was it baseball? Soccer, anyone? Perhaps golf? Get your answers in. 3 seconds left. Well done, everyone. It was baseball. Very good. 20 correct answers. And for those of you not aware, speed does count. So we'll see the scores here after each one. And Lacey not only answered correct, but you had the best speed. So moving on to the second one. What is California's state motto? North to the future, wisdom, justice, and moderation, Eureka, or the crossroads of America? It is Eureka, and some of you found it. Well done. Okay. Lacey continues to lead. We've got a couple of new faces coming up. Question number 3. This is for double points. Which of these cities has never held a Tableau conference? Would that be Austin, Texas, San Diego, New Orleans, or our nation's capital? Everyone has answered. Some people a little bit too quick. It did come up there. Yes, Washington, D.C. has never held a Tableau conference. Maybe sometime in the future. We do have a rather large office there. Change at the top here. Rad Rocks takes first place. Still truly anyone's game. Question number 4. Some random trivia here. What is the highest grossing Pixar film of all time? Is it Toy Story 4, Finding Dory, Toy Story 3, or Incredibles 2? Everyone quick to answer. Maybe should have taken a bit more time, though. Only 5 people knew that it was Incredibles 2. But well done, and let's see how that changes the, yeah, we got a few people moving up. All right, moving on to question 5. Bit of science for you here. What is the formula for force? Is it mass times acceleration, acceleration times velocity, velocity times temperature, or acceleration times Illuminati? Well done. All right, we got about 3/4 answering correct on that one. Hope everyone's having fun. Let's see, big change in the scoreboard here. Steve taking over the top place, but William climbing up quickly. All right, question 6, true or false? You got a 50-50 here. The Salesforce Tower, of course, in downtown San Francisco, is it higher than the Eiffel Tower? Quickly. Most of you knew, yes, it is also the tallest building in California. So quite a remarkable building there. Steve retains the lead. We're moving on to number 7 here. Little science, marine biology. Which sea creature has 3 hearts? Octopus, starfish, a whale, or a jellyfish? Some of you a little bit too quick, but a bunch of you did know that it was octopus, so well done. Let's see how that affects the scores. And yes, Azal has risen to the top, so change in leadership. And only a couple questions remaining here, a few questions. Back to buildings. What skyscraper is this? The Willis Tower, Central Park Tower, Burj Khalifa, or the China Zun? Got about 5 seconds left. Get those answers in. Well done. Most of you did get the correct answer there. The Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Not much change atop the leaderboard. Down to our final 2 questions, so it's still a very close game. Question 9, California trivia. Which is not one of the largest cities in California? It's a city only, not metro area. Yes, correct, Sacramento. Fresno is actually one of the 5 largest. And San Diego and San Francisco didn't give the largest because everyone knows that. So well done there, a bit of a tricky question. And sure enough, Vidya has taken the lead, but still anyone's game. And down to the very last question, here we go. 10 of 10, this is a Tableau question, double points. What type of visualization is this? Is it a line chart, a tree map, Gantt chart, or a heat map? Those answers in, 10 seconds to go. Tree map. That was a tougher one. All right, let's go and let's find out the results here. This is going to be exciting. Here's the podium. Molly, third place, well done. Coming up second, Vidya, and number one, over 10,000 points, 8 out of 10, is Steve.
Woo!
All right. Wonderful.
Hope y'all enjoyed that. Just thought it would be fun to bring a quick little game to try to enhance the virtual experience. But thank y'all for participating. A quick, I know why you guys all stayed on the line was for swag. So congratulations, Steve. You've won some Tableau swag. We'll follow up with you after. And then also from utilizing the chat. Oh, Grant.
And well, I was just going to say, Steve, we don't have your full name. If you would just want to chat with us or message us who you are, Steve, we'll make sure that you get your swag.
I think it's the same Steve that's been pretty active on chat.
Oh, yes, it
there
is.
he
All right. Well done.
I put everyone who put in the chat into a random generator, and we have 2 winners for participation today for also Tableau swag. So congrats to Chantavia. I don't know if I said that right. And then also Vidya. So if you all can post in the chat, we will follow up with you to get some swag.
Super.
Awesome. Well,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoy your Wednesday. Thanks again to our presenters. I think this was, at least, I hope it was a great first virtual tug, and hopefully we can do this much more. So y'all have a good rest of your week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.